Hello and welcome to Sujit Talks. My name is Sujit Bila, a registered migration agent here in Australia. This video is about the public interest criterion 4020, also called as PIC 4020 or 4020. This enables refusal of a visa if an applicant provides a bogus document or information that is false or misleading in relation to their application, or if the minister or the Home Affairs Department or whatever the department is called, the Immigration Department, it changes its names according to the government changes. Whatever the department name is, so the Immigration Department, if it is not satisfied of an applicant's identity, if PIC 4020 is part of the criteria for the particular visa you have applied, you must satisfy PIC 4020 in order to be granted your visa. Visas affected by PIC 4020 normally are skilled migration visas, business visas, temporary visas, student visas, and family visas. This video will educate you about PIC 4020. There's a lot of information in this video, so focus on what's been said, and you can comment under this video, and the comments, if they are general in nature, would be replied to. Otherwise, if they are specific, please contact me by scheduling a phone consultation on my website sujittalks.com, or you can email me at info@sujittalks.com. Now, the PIC 4020 covers situations where an applicant has provided false or misleading information in a material particular or a bogus document in relation to a visa application to the minister or the Immigration Department, or a departmental officer or a case officer, Migration Review Tribunal MRT, which is part of AAT now, a relevant assessing authority, which means a skills assessment body, a medical officer of the Commonwealth, that is MOC. It also has identity requirement under PIC 4020. If you go specific to the clauses under migration regulations, you will find where the identity requirement is under 4020 of 2A. It allows the minister or the case officer to refuse a visa application where this criterion applies if the minister is not satisfied as to the identity of the visa applicant. The burden of proving an applicant's identity rests solely on the applicant. Proving your identity is the most important thing in visa applications, and it is part of PIC 4020 criteria. The policy directs that evidence of identity for visa purposes takes three primary forms. Number one is documents containing biographic information such as name, date of birth, etc. Information in the application about the applicants, and biometric. The third one is biometric evidence that links a person's biographic information to physical attributes, including facial images and fingerprints. So the three forms are documents, number one. Number two is information. Number three is biometric. As a result of this, an individual who omits or falsifies one of the following in order to obtain an immigration outcome may be caught within the provisions of PIC 4020 of 2A. So that's the clause there. So it could be name, date of birth, place of birth, citizenship or nationality, address, photograph, other personal identifiers. An important criteria, apart from the identity, in PIC 4020 is supplying bogus document. So what is a bogus document? A bogus document in relation to a person means a document that the delegate reasonably suspects is a document that purports to have been but was not issued in respect of the person, is counterfeit or has been altered by a person without authority to alter it, or was obtained because of a false or misleading statement, whether or not made knowingly. It's very important words here, whether or not made knowingly. So you can't just say that your agent has done it. There are other related provisions in the Act, in the Migration Act, that refer to bogus document, including Section 103 and Section 234 of 1. So we are not getting there. But examples of bogus documents provided for in policy include counterfeit documentation such as passports, birth certificates, marriage certificates, educational certificates, financial documents, or work references. Documents issued by a genuine authority but obtained fraudulently, for example, an English language test result that was not achieved by the applicant, or a skills assessment obtained by providing false claims to a skills assessing body. False work experience documentation relating to skilled work undertaken in their nominated occupation, either onshore, offshore, or both, prior to application lodgement. False document regarding custody or dependency claims. A document belonging to another person that is presented to the department by the visa applicant on the pretense that it is their own. Look, you cannot take back a bogus document. Unlike false or misleading information, there is no provision to correct the giving of bogus document. An applicant fails PIC 4020 unless they satisfy the department that the document is actually not bogus. Equally, in contrast to PIC 4020 of 3 of B, the definition of bogus document under Section 97 of the Migration Act is silent as to whether the document needs to be relevant to any of the criteria being considered in the particular case. Look, it's very important to understand that you should not provide any bogus documents as part of your visa application process. And it's very, very important that you should tell your agent upfront about all the documents that you have and any information that could be counterproductive to the visa application upfront, so that they know what they are going to do and will discuss with you upfront what are the chances of a visa grant or a refusal. And it's very important that it is your responsibility to see that the documents are not bogus and it's not the agent's. For example, in the Federal Magistrate Court decision of Vyas and Anor versus Minister for Immigration and Anor, the court found that it was not necessary for an applicant to know that the document that he or she gave or caused to be given to an officer was a bogus document in order for PIC 4020 of 1 to apply. So you can't just say that, look, I don't know that it is a bogus document. So that's not going to help. You can't say that you don't know that it is a bogus document. And you can't blame another person for providing that bogus document. Important criterion in most of the visa applications and part of PIC 4020 is providing false or misleading information. So what is false or misleading information in a material particular? The term is defined under PIC 4020-5 to be information that is false or misleading at the time it is given and is relevant to any of the criteria that the department may consider when making a decision on the application, whether or not the decision is made because of that information. If incorrect information has been given, an assessment then needs to be made to determine if it is false and misleading in a material particular, that is false and misleading at the time that it is given, and whether the information is relevant to any of the criteria the department may consider when making a decision on the current visa application, whether or not the visa decision is based on the application. So what this is saying is basically you should not provide any false or misleading information in the application. Now we know what is identity, what is misleading information, and we also know what is a bogus document. Now let's talk the effect of public interest criterion PIC 4020, where an applicant is refused a visa on the basis that they have provided false or misleading information in a material particular or a bogus document and cannot satisfy PIC 4020 of 1. The person may be excluded for a period of 3 years from applying for another visa to which PIC 4020 applies. Where the applicant is refused a visa on the basis that the minister is not satisfied as to the person's identity under PIC 4020 of 2A in accordance with PIC 4020 of 2B. So these are the clauses in migration regulations. The person is subject to a 10-year ban where the applicant and any members of their family unit are unable to be granted any visa that requires them to satisfy PIC 4020. So, are there any waivers for this? Look, department has a general discretion under PIC 4020-4 to waive any or all of PIC 4020 1 of A, 1 of B and 2 where satisfied that the applicant has compelling circumstances that affect the interests of Australia. So this is very important. If you're an overseas applicant, how would you have compelling circumstances that affect interests of Australia unless you have got some ties to Australia and show that without giving you a visa it's going to affect interests of Australia? Or compelling or compassionate circumstances that affect the interests of an Australian citizen, permanent resident or eligible New Zealand citizen. So this is when you have a partner who is an Australian citizen or permanent resident or eligible New Zealand citizen or any other person who is that, and their interests are affected if you're not given a visa. Importantly, this waiver doesn't extend to applications that have been refused on the basis of identity requirement under PIC 4020 of 2A. Finally, the scope of PIC 4020. Look, PIC 4020 prescribes that the visa is to be refused if false, misleading or incorrect information or a bogus document is given or is caused to be given in relation to current visa application, a visa that the applicant has held in the last 12 months before the current application was made. So if you're onshore in Australia and you're on a particular visa and then you're applying to another visa, it could also affect the future application based on the information you have given in the past application, and if there is any inconsistency it could trigger PIC 4020. Any visa refused on the basis of PIC 4020 in the 3-year period before the current application was made, because there is a 3-year ban here which applies to applicants refused under PIC 4020. Look, you can still apply a new visa if your previous visa was refused under PIC 4020 of 2, but it will prevent from the visa grant. So what's the point in applying and not getting a grant? So you could still apply, but there's a bar on granting the visa. Another issue, the most important thing, a key takeaway from this video is that PIC 4020 applies to all the secondary applicants. So you can't just say, look, it was refused under PIC 4020 and now you would bring your wife as a primary applicant. Previously you were the primary applicant, or you would bring your husband as a primary applicant because you were refused before, and you thought that if there's a primary secondary swap, you could get away with it. It's not possible because there's this one fail, all fail primary criterion, which means primary and secondary both have to satisfy PIC 4020. So again, the ban 3 years will apply. And if it is related to identity, it will be a 10-year ban. Before we finish this video, what will trigger an inquiry into bogus documents? Policy gives the following examples of scenarios to illustrate where further investigation may be warranted. The applicant has previously withdrawn an application after being asked to provide comment on the suspected genuineness of a document given to the Immigration Department for consideration. The applicant continues to request extensions of time in response to requests for further information from the department. The applicant has been assisted with their application by a person who is known to the department to have previously been associated with known or suspected fraudulent activity, such as the giving of false or misleading information or bogus documents. The applicant has immigration history that suggests that they have provided false or misleading information in relation to previous visa grants. In such cases, officers must pay greater attention to the information and documents given in relation to the current application. The moral of the story is not to provide bogus documents, misleading information, especially about identity documents. Don't take it very lightly, and applying a visa is not applying a job. So you could see a difference there when you apply for a job, when you talk about different things and put different things in your resume. It's not like that in a visa application. And there's this feeling that if you can be confident in an interview, you'll get away even though you've put some fake documents in there. It's not like that in immigration. So if you're confident, even if you have bogus documents, then you're just fooling yourself. So take an opinion from a registered migration agent. If you have any slight doubt about what PIC 4020 is and how would it impact in your visa application. Thank you very much for watching this video. My name is Sujit Billa. I'm a registered migration agent here in Australia. This video, Sujit Talks on YouTube, gives pristine information about Australian immigration, usually from official sources. If you want to get notified, please click on the bell icon. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. If you're after immigration advice, as I'm a registered migration agent, I'm legally allowed to give immigration advice. So go to my website, sujittalks.com, and schedule a phone consultation.